What is your name and your research affiliation?
Nicola Fear, I nearly forgot my name then, Professor of Epidemiology at King's College London in the UK.
Can you tell us a little bit about your educational background?
Oh, how far back do you want to go? So I initially did a bachelor's degree in pharmacology and thought I wanted to be a pharmacologist. And so that was my kind of initial kind of career pathway. However, as I got to the end of that degree, I realised that developing and testing drugs for the benefit of the population perhaps wasn't my thing. And I was more interested in how you research the kind of impacts of drugs and medications, etc., on the population, which led me down the path of sort of public health and then epidemiology. So I did a master's in epidemiology, followed by a doctorate at the University of Oxford in occupational epidemiology, and that's really what set me on the course of where I am today.
Tell us a little bit about your research focus and interests.
So I lead quite a broad programme of research, looking at the health and well-being of the armed forces community within the UK. And that is serving personnel, veterans and family members.
The next question you've kind of answered a little bit, so it's sort of what drew you to the area, so you've mentioned that. What keeps you motivated to keep going?
When I started out as an occupational epidemiologist, I was working more in the field of cancer research, and although this is a really important area of research and trying to sort of identify occupational exposures that were associated with cancer outcomes, I didn't feel I was having the impact that I wanted my research to have. And so that's what drew me more to work with the military population, and then that moved into looking at the veterans community. And the work that we do, we can feed directly into government, be that the UK Ministry of Defence or Health Services or the charitable sector. And that enables the government and those providing services to make evidence-based change for their policy and practice. And having been able to have that kind of beneficial impact on the armed forces community is really what keeps me motivated, gets me up every day, and is a real driving force for my research.
Is there something that is often misunderstood in your area of research that you would like to clarify?
In the UK, there is a dominant media narrative that military service is bad for you. There's a narrative that veterans are sad, mad, or bad, or all three. And so a lot of our research does identify groups that are at particular risk of adverse outcomes, but the vast majority of individuals actually benefit from their service. They make a successful transition back into civilian life. So we really need to celebrate those successes, but not forgetting those individuals where we do need to help and support them.
So this is the one that's going to ask you to think back into the vault. So the question is there anything that surprised you about your research or field as a new researcher trainee? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. So we run several cohort studies out of the centre at King's College London. One of them is looking at the health impacts of being severely injured as a result of your deployment to Afghanistan. And we have two cohorts. One who are injured, and these are severely injured during their deployment. And that cohort includes individuals with limb loss, but also individuals who were injured without limb loss. And then we have a comparison cohort that's individuals who were deployed to Afghanistan at the same time as those that were injured, did the same role, but who didn't come home with a serious physical injury. That research looks at a whole range of health and wellbeing outcomes, and the team at King's, we focus on the mental health and the wellbeing aspects. And so we were interested to look at what's the mental health profile of individuals who've been severely injured. Our hypothesis was that those individuals who'd been injured would have worse mental health than those who hadn't, and that if you had limb loss, then your mental health would be, you'd have more extreme adverse mental health than those who were injured without limb loss. However, what we found was that those who were injured and sustained limb loss actually had better mental health than those individuals who were injured without limb loss. That was not what we'd hypothesized, not what we'd expected. We aren't able to kind of point to one particular reason for that finding, but we think it may be due to longer time in rehabilitation, so potentially greater access to mental health resources, the visibility of the injury, which means people maybe make adaptations to those individuals, whereas those who have been injured without limb loss, you can't necessarily see where or what their injury is. And there's more potential opportunities afforded to those with limb loss. So that's something that we hadn't expected. We will be following these individuals up over time, because it may be that those patterns of mental health change as they age, as their mobility decreases. It may be that they move, their mental health changes, and perhaps they're not doing so well. So it's really important that we track that over time.
If you could offer a piece of advice to a new researcher or trainee, something maybe you wish you knew in the beginning, what would that be?
I think I would always encourage people to take every opportunity that is thrown at them. Some of them may come to nothing, others may stick and may give you open doors to things that you'd never expected. I do think with hindsight, you also then need to think about capacity. But I think, when you're more junior in your career, there's lots of opportunities. I would just say take them all. And I think start to build networks and collaborations, because the ones that you make as a junior researcher will see you all the way through. And you have a long-lasting collaborative relationship, but also long-lasting friendships.
We all know that research can be a bit difficult. Tell us something that you do to practice self-care throughout this process.
So I run. I don't run very far or very fast, but every morning I try and go out and run about 5k. I live by the sea, so I love to run by the water, hear the sea, smell the sea, and that sets me up for the day. I've had a bit of my time, I've done some exercise, I've had some fresh air, and I really feel if I don't do that run, then it does have a kind of negative impact on me for the rest of the day. So that's my kind of bit of self-care.